Hello, exiles. Welcome back to SSF. Still in the company of Thorgrim. His Mjollner doing the best it can at the moment in Solar Found. There were no gear updates to speak of. We did try a random rare helmet instead of the Vile Knight because it it adds some life, some strength, some intelligence. It allows us to add a little bit more survivability instead of trying to add DPS. But in the end, it doesn't really make a difference because the DPS is vile. The DPS on the build is so slow, and it's hindered by so many map mods that you can't really run it at all in any significant way. Even with the Anvil, which would increase our block chance to 69%, which would mean additional survivability. No, we're still getting, I wouldn't say one shot because it's only the extra physical damage leads that would one shot the build, but it's still getting slowed down enough that additional multiple projectiles and or hits would take the build down from 3000 life. With if I can get to my defensive layer with 50% damage reduction, it really doesn't help the build. If you get close to the same amount of energy shield and 0% damage reduction, you're going to feel more survivable than this build right here. The block chance, I'm not sure I see it happening. Any damage of any incoming strike or projectile. I'm trying to watch the hits, but I don't see the block chance triggering, like blocking actual hits. I know there's a I hope there is a spirit gem that says cast on block. Cast on block. Cast on. Okay, so it's a shield item for cast on block. Is it here? Yeah. So Svalin would give us cast on block, but minus 80% maximum block chance. Yeah, it should be lucky. Then maybe we could count to see just how many blocks, how many hits do we block. It would be another build. Oh, I don't know. Maybe there are ways to change this build, have the Titan do something else, do a completely different skill set, and even give up Mjollner. But right now the build is not dishing out enough damage to clear packs, and at the same time not dishing out, not being able to live through enough damage to keep doing consistent hits. What do we have here? A hasted Shroud Walker Hinder Aura Elite. Luckily, as you've just seen, one hit took us down to 500. Maybe we were lucky we had the shield up. Oh, and these crones, these water witches. I understand that the game wants to be, its own game, but having instant kill mechanics on random mobs doesn't really help you get moving through the game with, you know, with some. Long story short, I hate that mechanic. The thing that the ball that these river hags drop on the map, and if you stay inside the ball for what it looks like a very small amounts of time, you're gonna be instant death. You're going to be dying instantly. I mean, it does look like we're doing something, but we're currently level 87. For the past few days we've been level 87 because even when you get we get into a row, as it were, into we get a few lucky elites and lucky maps where we don't die throughout the map. Then it just turns out that some random projectiles get us down to 0. We lose 10% of the experience, and we can't progress the build. I know we haven't talked about it yet, and maybe we can talk about it after we find the next elite. We couldn't get the ascendancy either. The last ascendancy is impossible. The bird boss in the Chaos Trials is doing one-shots with anything that it does, and we can't stun it or electrocute it or disable it long enough to kill it. We get a few hits in, but then the screen goes black. Congratulations, your game is over. Congratulations, you died. As well as in the Sekima trials, there are elites we can't move past. Just as we were talking about some stuff we can't move past, we find the instant death ball. Okay, we found the boss. This is Rattlecage, the Earthbreaker. This is the boss as you'd find it in, well, not exactly as you'd find it in the Sekima trials, because it's currently being possessed by an Asmeri spirit, and it also has a random mod. So yeah, one hit, all of our life pool. We could try and dance around the boss, like, hey, come here. But there will be slams, there will be overhead attacks that we cannot block. I was under the impression from my previous knowledge of my knowledge of the previous game that armor pertains to all physical hits, doesn't matter if they're strikes or slams or projectiles or whatever. I'm not sure I see it here, but then again, the game is currently in a state where a lot of the mechanics are kind of hidden away. Thank you. So it's currently has about 30,000 armor and random projectiles. If we were to have around 30,000 armor, would pretty much be, would we be around the 90%? Yeah, so that boss was, it would have been a slow fight either way, even if we didn't die that soon. So yeah, the build, I think it's well, the first build that I tried this league that has a hard cap, a wall face in front of it, an unpassable obstacle. Unfortunately, Mjollner doesn't do enough, and anything else that you might want to do in your skill tree to support Mjollner is at best mediocre. I'm sorry to use this word, but it's not going to be, it's not going to be a flashy very. There will be builds that will not be flashy. They will not be SSF viable. I think that for someone who's trying to play SSF, this is not viable. As everybody, I think everybody knows that any other Mjollner build out there is using the deepest tower, which is mandatory for the build because Mjolnir doesn't do enough, so you need something else that is build defining. Unfortunately, if you're going to run the deepest tower, you might as well be doing mace strikes, and you'll be clearing bosses and map bosses and pinnacle bosses and everything because the deepest tower. That being said, Thorgrim is going to take his leave for now. I don't think there are any gear updates that we can add to make this build pinnacle worthy. I still haven't found anyone doing this in SSF successfully. I'll keep looking. You're free to link other builds if you can find them. I'm happy to follow some other guys build link as long as it's viable. But yeah, that being said, thank you all for watching. Thorgrim says goodbye, and until next time, goodbye, exiles.